South Wales, new Labor Premier Chris Minns and his friend Ben Franklin, who is ostensibly a member of the Nationals opposition, are trying to metaphorically do to Parliament House on Macquarie Street what that drone failed to do on the Kremlin. Both houses of Parliament are delicately balanced, so Minns is understandably looking for any way to manipulate the numbers in his favour. Yesterday, he offered Franklin the presidency of the upper house, which comes with the same lucrative perks as a ministership. The deal would presumably require Franklin to support the government's legislation against the wishes of his own party. It's difficult to imagine a more cynical distortion of democracy. It's been described by one anonymous member of Franklin's party as treachery, and there are threats to expel him if he accepts the offer. Franklin hasn't said whether he will yet. But you have to say, the Nationals only have themselves to blame. They are increasingly a party of politicians who stand for nothing except maintaining a cushy career in Parliament. Franklin's own party profile says he is, quote, passionate about working with residents and groups to achieve strong outcomes for the community and making sure they have access to employment, cultural and educational opportunities, unquote. His profile says nothing about individuality, responsibility, family, religion, small government, or, heaven forbid, fighting against the forces that are trying to destroy the freedom upon which Australia was founded. He's just another cardboard cutout of a politician, offering platitudes that should the need ever arise, are vague enough to comfortably apply to the other side of politics instead. But thankfully, there are still some people who are prepared to defy the xenophobic zeitgeist, as my new colleague Mark Stein demonstrated last night. His guest was author and former media mogul Lord Conrad Black, who also once happened to be a friend of the late convicted sex offender and pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and his enabler, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's now doing 20 years for trafficking young girls. It's not often you hear anybody speak positively about that reviled couple, but here's Black doing just that.
There's a chance you know better who this guy really was than most of the speculation in the newspapers.
He was always a bit of a man of mystery to us too, Mark. I have to say, as far as we knew him, he was a very nice man. And as far as we knew, they were an attractive couple, he and Ghislaine. And they were very nice to have dinner with, which we did a few times. And I never saw any young girls around. I was never actually in his house. We met, he came to my house a few times. I was in his house in New York, but not in Palm Beach. And he was clearly a very astute man, had a great deal of influence on my colleague, Leslie Wexner, who's a director of ours and was one of the great retailers in the United States. And we were astounded as these things came out. I mean, it was not completely surprising to us that between him and Ghislaine, they might have had an exotic private life. That wasn't surprising, but it's no one's business but theirs if that's all it is.
If that's all it is, it probably wasn't. But anyway, for the full conversation, which segues neatly into a fascinating discussion about corruption in the American legal system, of which Mark and Conrad both have considerable experience, go to Mark's page on the ADH website or app.